In my previous life, I participated in a painting competition together with my boyfriend's first love. My boyfriend's first love, who claimed to be a painting genius, actually handed in a painting that was exactly the same as mine, one step ahead. In front of all the viewers in the live broadcast room of the painting competition, my boyfriend's first love accused me of plagiarizing her. I wanted to defend myself, but my boyfriend, who was a judge of the painting competition, slapped me hard. "I never thought you were such a person. I really misjudged you." Netizens called me a plagiarist bitch, and insulted my whole family. I was cyberbullied to death by the so-called righteous netizens, and even my elderly parents were not spared. After my death, my boyfriend's first love was hailed as a painting goddess relying on the popularity, and my boyfriend proposed to her. It was only then that I learned that all of this was just a slanderous drama planned by my boyfriend's first love and my boyfriend in order to build an image. When I opened my eyes again, I wondered how she could still accuse me of plagiarizing her if I didn't have my eyes. Daphne, what else do you have to say in your defense? The evidence is overwhelming. You are definitely plagiarizing. Mia rushed up to me aggressively, and there was a trace of barely noticeable pride in her eyes when she looked at me. She forcefully took my painting off the drawing board and compared it with hers. The painting competition was being live broadcast, and under the shooting of the high-definition camera, every viewer in the live broadcast room could clearly see the two identical paintings. The only difference was that Mia's painting was already completed, and mine was only 80% finished. The atmosphere in the live broadcast room suddenly became lively, and the viewers were furiously swiping the screen with bullet comments. "My God, it's not just a little bit similar. It's completely the same. She doesn't even bother to pretend and just starts plagiarizing directly. Does she think that the viewers and the judges are all fools? She plagiarized so obviously. I'm really convinced. There are always idiots sneaking into such formal competitions." A flood of bullet comments rushed towards me, all of them accusing me. The teachers on the judging panel also looked at me with disapproving eyes. My boyfriend Lucas was also sitting on the judging panel. Seeing that I was being pointed at by everyone, there was no concern in his eyes, but a glimmer of excitement flashed through them. In the spotlight of everyone, he stood up and cleared his throat. "Daphne, the evidence of your plagiarism is right here. What else do you have to say now? As your boyfriend, I'm really heartbroken. You actually plagiarized me as work out of jealousy. Whether as a creator who loves painting or as a deceived boyfriend, I can't tolerate what you've done, and I can't cover up for a plagiarist. Daphne, I want to break up with you." He said a lot of high-sounding words, and his expression of regret didn't seem to be fake. Soon, netizens gave him likes for his act of putting justice above family loyalty, and he forcefully gained a wave of fans. And Mia also stood behind Lucas with teary eyes, looking at me with an extremely aggrieved expression. "Daphne, I always thought we were friends. I never expected you to plagiarize my painting in such an important competition. I really misjudged you." Mia was originally weak and thin, and with that painful expression on her face at this moment, she instantly won the hearts of the judges and the viewers. My boyfriend Lucas couldn't help it even more. He raised his leg and walked towards me. Standing still in front of me, he raised his hand to slap me. The next second, his raised hand didn't come down, but was firmly grasped by me. Lucas became even angrier. "How dare you even try to dodge?" Hearing his angry voice questioning me, the memories of my previous life flooded into my mind like a tide, and my heart turned cold. Last time, Mia was the one who handed in the same painting as mine one step ahead. In the live broadcast seen by the whole network, she publicly questioned me for plagiarizing her work. I didn't understand why my own creative idea would appear on Mia's painting. As soon as I wanted to defend myself, I was slapped by Lucas without any explanation. He didn't give me a chance to refute at all. He grabbed my hair and was about to drag me out, yelling angrily. "I never thought you were a thieving plagiarist. I really misjudged you." Netizens knew that Lucas was my boyfriend. With this identity, Lucas's scolding of me became the ironclad evidence of my plagiarism, and it couldn't be washed away no matter what. I became a plagiarist bitch scolded by the whole network. After I was cyberbullied to death, my elderly parents also passed away soon after. But later, when my soul was floating in the air, I saw Lucas propose to Mia. The two of them earned a lot of traffic by relying on the plagiarism scandal about me, and their status and reputation soared. Mia became a painting goddess, and Lucas also became an impartial judge, thriving in the painting world. Only I ended up with my family destroyed and became a wandering soul. After being reborn, the first thing I did was to go to the doctor and have an eye removal surgery, making myself a complete blind girl. In my previous life, I suffered from severe eye disease, but because of the painting competition, I thought I would have the surgery after finishing the last important competition before going blind. In the end, I ended up with a tragic death. In this life, I want to see how Mia and Lucas can still slander me without my eyes. As my thoughts came back, feeling Lucas's anger, my right hand holding his wrist tight and even more. Lucas felt my strength and was extremely angry. Daphne, what on earth do you want to do in front of everyone? After plagiarizing contestant Mia's painting, you're still not satisfied. Do you want to beat me, a judge of this competition? As soon as he finished speaking, the bullet comments in the lead broadcast room scrolled up violently, all saying that I was ungrateful and wouldn't shed tears until I saw the coffin. But I wasn't flustered at all. Under Lucas's incredulous gaze, the corners of my mouth curved into an arc. Looking up at him, I said in a flat tone, "Lucas, you really have a silver tongue. The way you're defending her like this, someone who doesn't know might think you're Mia's boyfriend." Lucas was taken aback for a moment, not expecting me to say that. I'm speaking from the perspective of a judge, and don't have any personal feelings involved. I laughed even harder. Then why did you show my design draft for the competition to Mia in advance? As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell silent. The bullet comments in the lead broadcast room paused for 2 seconds and then increased exponentially. What? What a huge revelation. Did Lucas show Daphne's design draft for the competition to Mia in advance? Is there any evidence? If there is, wouldn't the plagiarist be Mia instead? Damn, this plot has so many twists and turns. Even EV dramas wouldn't dare to be this dramatic. I'm just saying, is this something we can watch for free? It's so exciting. I have to buy 2 cat ties of melon seeds and call all my friends over to watch it. Originally, when the plagiarism incident occurred in the competition, the director wanted to stop the competition due to the emergency and then close the live broadcast. But now, seeing the increasing popularity in the live broadcast room, the director was a bit hesitant. After all, painting is a niche thing. From the preliminary rounds at the beginning to today's final, the popularity of many previous competitions combined is not as high as this sudden incident today. In the entertainment era, traffic is king. After weighing the pros and cons, the director still couldn't give up the opportunity to take advantage of this wave of traffic. He let the lead broadcast room broadcast what was happening on the scene to the whole network, and even specifically asked the cameraman to focus on the 3 of us. Seeing that the bullet comments were showing signs of a turnaround, Lucas's face turned a bit unpleasant, and Mia also secretly looked at Lucas with a pleading look. Facing my questioning, Lucas pretended to know nothing. He pretended to be confused and said, "Daphne, just admit that you plagiarized. What's the point of deliberately smearing me and Mia? If Mia secretly saw your design draft in advance, and then painted the same painting as you, then why, as the original creator, are you painting so much slower than Mia?" As soon as he finished speaking, the bullet comments flipped again following Lucas's questioning. Yeah, if Daphne is the original creator and already had the design draft for this painting in advance, she should be painting very quickly. She shouldn't be slower than Mia. It seems that Daphne is plagiarizing but still being stubborn. Seeing that she can't clear her name, she wants to drag the judge and other contestants down with her. I'm starting to feel sorry for Lucas. How could he have such a disgusting girlfriend? If it were me, I would have already rushed up and kicked her. Lucas just wanted to slap her. He really has a good temper. more and more netizens started to support Lucas and Mia. As the incident fermented, many local netizens spontaneously came to the scene of the painting competition, wanting to put pressure on the director. They were holding stinky eggs and rotten vegetables in their hands and looking at me fiercely. If it weren't for the security guards blocking them, I would completely believe that they would throw those things at me the next second. Seeing the public sentiment boiling and public opinion on their side, a glimmer of victory flashed through Lucas's eyes. He didn't even bother to pretend anymore. He grabbed Mia's hand and the two of them walked up to me together. Lucas, seemingly showing concern but actually adding insult to injury, said to me, "Daphne, things have come to this. Your best choice is to withdraw from the competition and also from the painting world. Never claim to be an original painter again from now on." Mia nodded in agreement. "Yeah, considering that you're Lucas's ex-girlfriend, I won't pursue the matter of you plagiarizing my work. Let this end with you withdrawing from the competition. That's it." Her appearance of being magnanimous quickly won the likes of netizens. The bullet comments were all saying that she was a kind-hearted goddess, talented and beautiful. As for me, I was regarded as the control group and became a rat crossing the street, loathed by all in the mouths of netizens. Everyone, whether they knew me or not, wanted to take a dig at me. My ears were filled with the curses of the netizens who had come to the scene. Some of them were so emotional that they almost broke through the security guard's block and punched me in the face. Feeling the situation of being reviled by everyone, I didn't show the panic that Lucas and Mia had expected at all. Instead, I nodded as if in agreement. Under the puzzled gazes of the two of them, I said in agreement, "Yeah, the person who plagiarized should just withdraw from the competition." Then Mia, as the plagiarist, quickly withdraw from the competition. And Lucas, as a judge, in order to help Mia, you chose to stab other original creators in the back. What you've done has made the war judge lose its meaning of fairness. You should withdraw from the competition too. After I finished speaking, both the audience at the scene and those online were stunned. What? Is Daphne crazy? Who exactly should withdraw from the competition? I woke up to suddenly. These days, plagiarists can openly ask the judge and the original contestant to withdraw from the competition. I must still be half asleep. Not only were the netizens shocked, but even Lucas and Mia were stunned, standing there and staring at me blankly. "Daphne, are you crazy? How dare you ask me and Mia to withdraw from the competition? Did you go crazy from plagiarizing?" Seeing that Lucas was about to say something else to stab me in the back, I didn't want to play along with him anymore. Most of the audience at the scene had arrived, and they had also spontaneously taken out their phones to record videos. With enough passers-by watching, I wasn't afraid at all that the director would collude with Lucas and Mia and cut off the live broadcast when I said something unfavorable to them. I pointed at my unfinished painting and looked calm. "There's a reason why I painted slower than Mia, and this reason can precisely prove that I'm not the plagiarist, and Mia is the one who plagiarized me." "Then show it." Whether it was because he was confident or just bluffing, as soon as I finished speaking, Lucas immediately roared at me, urging me to produce the evidence. I didn't move my body, but the slight trembling of my two naturally drooping arms betrayed the emotional fluctuations in my heart. Seeing me trembling, Lucas and Mia thought I was scared and couldn't produce the evidence at all, but was just stubbornly trying to save face. With red eyes, Mia guided the public opinion to scold me. "Daphne, I know you're jealous of my creative talent, but you can't plagiarize my hard work, and you can't try to ruin me after being accused. I clearly said that as long as you withdraw from the competition, I can let bygones be bygones. But you've slandered me again and again, making the original creator suffer injustice. This is too unfair." Lucas even took a step forward, wanting to avenge Mia. The truth was about to be revealed, but it had to be built on my wounds. I struggled slightly in my heart, giving myself the final psychological preparation. Caught off guard, Lucas managed to push me down forcefully. At the same time, my hand resting on the sunglasses went limp and loosened. As my body hit the ground, the sunglasses also slid off my face, revealing the truth it had been covering up. The whole place fell silent instantly, and the bullet comments stopped scrolling. Because, on the eyes from which I took off the sunglasses, there were two empty and sunken eye sockets. In my eyes, there were no eyeballs. What on earth is going on? Is there anyone who can tell me why Daphne is a blind girl? My God. So Daphne completed 80 of the painting in the competition while being blind. This is incredible, I'm really shocked. Words like these were still scrolling on the bullet comments in the live broadcast room. And the netizens who had come to the scene offline were also stunned into silence after seeing my empty eyes, staring and blinking lie at my fallen figure. It was the staff who reacted in time and stepped forward to help me up first. After pushing me to the ground, Lucas turned around and left, softly comforting Mia with his back to me. Mia also lowered her head and nestled in his arms. The two of them thought they had the upper hand and didn't pay attention to what was happening at the scene at all. Not to mention seeing my blind eyes. They just thought they were about to win, and they thought the gasps from the audience were all exclamations about how Lucas was enraged for the sake of a beauty. They didn't hear what everyone was discussing at all. Not even bothering to pretend to turn around, Lucas faced away from me and said loudly, "Daphne, things have come to a point where it can't be solved just by you withdrawing from the competition. You slandered contestant Mia again and also challenged my dignity as a judge. I demand that you must publicly apologize to me and Mia here, and promise that you will never appear in the painting world again." Mia added in a timely manner, "I didn't want to get entangled with you at first. It's because you've bullied me again and again that I couldn't bear it anymore. Now I need not only an apology but also spiritual compensation from you. Otherwise, I will contact my lawyer and ask him to sue you." After she finished speaking, Lucas and Mia held their heads high and looked at the lit broadcast room, hoping to see words of agreement from the bullet comments. As a result, instead of finding words of agreement, they found a flood of accusations and doubts. So Lucas was just bullying a blind girl just now. He pushed her down, and not only didn't he help her up, but he even talked to her with his back turned. This is too disrespectful. I also misjudged Mia. The current situation clearly shows that Daphne is weaker. She's a blind person, where does she have the money to pay the spiritual compensation that Mia demands? And don't you think a blind person can't plagiarize either, daughter? Even if Daphne wanted to copy Mia's painting, she would have to be able to see it. Upstairs, you're right. Now I'm starting to think that Mia is the plagiarist. Otherwise it's hard to explain why their paintings are so similar. Lucas and Mia were stunned. After seeing the bullet comments saying that I was a blind person, they even forgot about managing their expressions and quickly turned around and stared at my eyes. Then, I met my empty and lifeless eye sockets. There were no eyeballs in the two sunken and ugly eye sockets. Mia was startled and screamed as she stepped back, shrinking into Lucas's arms. Her voice was filled with deep disgust and trembling. "What's that monster? How can someone not have two eyeballs? It's really ugly and scary." As soon as these words came out, the righteous people in the lead broadcast room couldn't stand it anymore and scrolled through the bullet comments to accuse Mia. Everyone has the responsibility to care about the physical and mental health of the disabled. Leaving aside the truth of the matter for now, as a public figure, how can Mia launch a personal attack on Daphne's physical disability? Doesn't she know that this is an insult to the disabled? Before, they were promoting her as a painting goddess. How can such a narrow-minded person be called a goddess? I think she's more like a female ghost. Seeing that Mia was being publicly accused by the netizens, Lucas couldn't sit still. Pressing Mia's head with red eyes against his chest, Lucas turned to me. Ignoring the curses of the netizens, he kept harping on the matter of my plagiarism. "Sorry, Daphne. Mia is a fragile little girl at heart. She hasn't experienced being slandered by others, so she's a bit emotional. But she doesn't have any bad intentions. What she said to you wasn't aimed at you. She was just scared by you and broke down in a moment of panic." Seeing his despicable behavior of talking nonsense, I just thought it was ridiculous. What did he mean by saying that Mia was a fragile little girl at heart and hadn't experienced being slandered by others? Daphne wasn't fragile at heart. Who wasn't a young girl who had just stepped into the world and had little experience? In my previous life, when Lucas and Mia joined forces to accuse me of plagiarism, I was chased and cursed by netizens from online to my home. They hacked all my social media accounts and splashed red oil on my front door. I couldn't sleep day and night and curled up in the quilt, fearing that the fragile door couldn't withstand their attacks, and that the emotional netizens would rush in and beat me to death. My parents were also implicated because of this. The netizens made a fuss about my plagiarism at their work units, pressured the leaders to fire my parents, and made them lose their iron rice bowls at the age of over 50. I posted information online that could prove my innocence and uploaded the electronic version of the designed raft that Lucas had stolen. Anyone who has done painting knows that a manuscript can't be completed in one go. It requires first drawing the initial sketch of the lines, then refining the details of the draft, followed by local coloring, and finally liquefying and adjusting. Even this is just an ordinary manuscript. When it comes to paintings at the competition level, it usually starts with hundreds of layers. It simply can't be completed overnight. However, after I posted these layers, there wasn't even a single view. I desperately created multiple accounts, both large and small, to forward it, trying to increase the popularity of my post. But I found that all my accounts had been blocked under the manipulation of those with ulterior motives. This wasn't the most despairing thing. When I gave up posting on social platforms and wanted to contact public accounts and TV media to clear my name, Mia posted my original layers on Weibo. The post that I had no views on, in her hands, got hundreds of likes within minutes and had over 10,000 views. Netizens were all praising her for having incredibly skillful hands that could turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, piecing together simple layers to form an exquisite and eye-catching painting. Some people also envied her for having a brilliant mind. How could she have so many wonderful ideas, combining me elements from mythical stories with modern elements to create a whole new genre? In front of the computer screen, tears mixed with blood streamed down my eyes. The tears mixed with blood dripped onto my hands one by one, staining my fair and tender skin red and also wetting the clothes in front of me. At that time, I realized that I had conjunctival cancer and needed to have an eye removal surgery to save my life. Otherwise, the cancer cells would spread to my brain, and even the greatest immortal couldn't save me. But my family was implicated by me. They had taken out all their savings to compensate Mia and simply didn't have any money left for my surgery. Moreover, I didn't want to live anymore. After shedding tears mixed with blood again, I deeply sighed. After my parents fell asleep, I kowtowed 3 times in front of their door. Then I turned around and left and jumped off a building in the community where Mia lived. I wanted to use my daft to tell all the netizens that I was innocent, that I hadn't plagiarized, and that I hadn't done anything wrong. But Lucas and Mia weren't flustered at all. I made bold statements online, saying that I jumped off the building in Mia's community, because I felt guilty and was using this way to atone for my sins. I was already dead and had no way to refute them. The action that I thought could drag them down unexpectedly was used by them to turn the situation in their favor. My soul floated in the air, looking at my parents who were also tortured to death by netizens with complete despair. Lucas and Mia, the culprits who caused all of this, were happily proposing in a cathedral, and were being worshipped as deities by netizens in the painting circle. Perhaps because everything in my previous life was too tragic, when my thoughts were flying freely in my mind, the atmosphere around me was so oppressive that Lucas didn't dare to speak anymore. After I came back to my senses and retracted my imposing manner, Lucas pretended to be calm and continued, "Daphne, I didn't expect you to become blind. You've really had a tough time. Alright, let's each take a step back. Mia and I won't pursue the matter of your plagiarism. You just need to apologize to Mia, and this matter will be over." I interrupted him coldly. "Is it that you won't pursue it anymore, or that after you saw I'm a blind person, you realized you couldn't pin the blame of plagiarism on me? Before I took off my sunglasses, didn't you keep saying that I was an unforgivable plagiarist? Then why, after seeing that I have no eyeballs, you changed your tune and said that as long as I apologize, you won't pursue it any further? My words were reasonable and well-founded, and the netizens in the lead broadcast room were also led by my train of thought and started to think in the direction I mentioned. It feels like the trend is about to reverse. Daphne is right. A blind person simply can't plagiarize. And Daphne has always said that she has the designed draft for the competition. As long as she shows that manuscript, she can prove who the real plagiarist is, right? What the netizens said was exactly what I wanted to bring up. I knew that when Lucas and Mia set up a trap to accuse me of plagiarism, they must have hidden that design draft so that I couldn't find it. I probed them step by step, setting traps for them with every word I said, and never making a final statement, leaving them with the hope of turning the situation around. All of this was to lure Lucas and Mia to take out that design draft. They would definitely say that they had the design draft, and that I had secretly peeked at Mia's manuscript in advance and memorized the details, so that I could paint in the competition as a blind person. Sure enough, when I pretended to lower my head and rummaged through my bag for the manuscript, ignoring Lucas's obstruction, Mia took it out of her own bag one step ahead and waved it triumphantly in front of the camera. She spread the design draft out in front of everyone, her voice full of arrogant confidence. I have the design draft in my hand. Daphne, stop pretending. Clearly you peeked at my design draft in advance. The public opinion in the lead broadcast room was once again led to Mia's side. After all this trouble, it turns out that the plagiarist is still Daphne. At first, seeing that she was a blind person, I thought she was so pitiful and couldn't have done such a thing as plagiarism. Now it seems that I was too soft-hearted and thought that the weaker one was in the right. Yeah, we were all used by her. The design draft is in Mia's hands. Facts speak louder than words. Daphne is the plagiarist. But there were also people who, after observing the whole thing, put forward a different opinion. I think Daphne has no need to plagiarize. She is a blind painter. In the public's eyes, they will have a certain degree of sympathy for her preconceived. She could have taken the route of a blind person who persists in painting, which would attract much more traffic than winning a painting competition. This statement also made some sense, and many netizens changed their stance and started to attack me of following this person. The lead broadcast room was in a heated argument, with all kinds of opinions. Some supported me, some supported Mia and Lucas, and there was no unified view. Seeing that the situation was not in her favor, Mia's beautiful face twisted a bit, and her expression became somewhat sinister. She tried to set a trap for me again. Daphne, I know you're not reconciled. You think that my appearance stole Lucas from you and you've always held a grudge against me. One night, while I was chatting with Lucas, you sneaked into my study and peeked at my design draft. I've always known about this. I just always wanted to give you a chance to see if you would really plagiarize my painting in the painting competition. If you hadn't, I could have pretended that this never happened, and wouldn't have brought it up in the future. But I didn't expect that you still did it, and so thoroughly that you wanted me to take the blame for your plagiarism. Daphne, I treated you as a friend, but you stabbed me in the back again and again. I'm really heartbroken. Mia accused me with tears streaming down her face, and with red eyes she looked as if she couldn't bear to look at me. She had a beautiful appearance. In front of a beauty, netizens naturally had a higher tolerance. What's more, compared with her was me, a blind girl without even two eyeballs. Daphne, just apologize to Mia, and let's forget about this matter. Considering that you're a blind person, we're all very tolerant and won't pursue the matter of you slandering Mia anymore. Some netizens at the scene couldn't stand it and had already spoken up to support Mia and instead accused me. Lucas chimed in, yeah, Daphne, everyone is so tolerant of you and has given you so many chances. Just apologize quickly. Although I couldn't see, I could still imagine how complacent Lucas's face must be when he said these words. He probably thought that without the design draft, I would never have a chance to turn the situation around. Unfortunately, things wouldn't develop as he expected, and he was going to be disappointed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I turned my head and faced Mia with my empty eye sockets. Although in terms of my status, I was a vulnerable blind person and also a contestant whose plagiarism accusation couldn't be cleared. But when I stood there, facing Mia and Lucas, it was as if I had a vast army behind me, and my words were as powerful as thunder when I spoke. Since you have the design draft, you should also be able to produce the original layers of the manuscript, right? However, Mia was stunned on the spot by my questioning. What? What original layers? Daphne, what are you trying to argue about now? I don't understand. Mia thought that by ignoring it, she could get herself out of trouble, but she didn't expect that Lucas immediately changed his expression and rushed over to cover her mouth. She struggled in confusion, and her eyes rolled around. Just then, she saw that the trend of the bullet comments in the lead broadcast room had changed, and the netizens at the scene were also looking at her with a strange gaze. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I opened my mouth again and directly questioned Mia. I said, since you can produce the designed raft, you should also be able to produce the original layers, right? Mia finally managed to break free from Lucas's hand. She didn't understand what the original layers were and just thought it was something basic and unimportant. After all, Lucas had never mentioned it to her before. Thinking about the persona of a painting goddess they had planned for her to establish. In Lucas's despairing gaze, Mia said the most ignorant and stupid sentence. I'm a painting genius. I never need the original layers for my design drafts. No matter what kind of painting it is, I can finish it in one go. The netizens at the scene all gasped in surprise and looked at Mia with incredulous eyes. But she was so pitifully stupid that she thought the netizens were admiring her creative ability. She added astonishingly once again, people like you definitely don't understand my creative talent. Some things are inborn, and you can't envy me even if you want to. I held back my laughter and nodded as if in agreement. So you finished the designed raft in one go and didn't stack the layers at all, right? Mia raised her chin and said proudly, what is stacking layers? I don't need it. I don't even need the original layers, let alone stacking layers. Only someone as stupid as you who can only plagiarize needs to stack layers. All the viewers in the live broadcast room were stunned, and the bullet comments were all exclaiming about Mia's ignorance and stupidity. Oh my God, what a big show. It's simply a huge revelation. I didn't expect that in the year 4084, I could witness the thief crying out to catch the thief with my own eyes. This is really wonderful. Mia saw these comments but thought that the audience was helping her to accuse me, and she became even more arrogant. She looked at me triumphantly, Daphne, the evidence of you plagiarizing my painting is conclusive. Now you not only need to apologize publicly, but also compensate me for the mental damage fee. I want 1 million. I was almost laughed out of anger by her stupid appearance. If I hadn't lost my eyeballs, I would definitely look at Mia and Lucas with the eyes of looking at a fool. I laughed and said to Lucas, is this your first love, the painting goddess? Someone who doesn't even know what the original layers and stacking layers are actually dares to market herself as a painting goddess with unparalleled talent. My words were full of ridicule. Lucas opened his mouth to refute, but suddenly found that the situation was hopeless, and there was no chance for him to whitewash the situation. Mia didn't understand and thought I was a grasshopper struggling on its last legs. She pointed at me. Daphne, don't be jealous just because you can't get something. I really don't need the original layers and stacking layers. After all, I'm a painting goddess, and I have talent. Well, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Looking at her silly appearance, I couldn't help but let out a snicker. Just as Mia was confused and about to say something outrageous again, Lucas, his face was flushed with anger, finally couldn't stand it anymore. He pulled her over and slapped Mia hard. Enough, stop talking. Mia's eyes widened in surprise, and she looked at Lucas in disbelief while covering her face. Lucas, why did you hit me? The evidence of Daphne's plagiarism is conclusive. I have the designed raft in my hand, and she can't turn the situation around at all. Now, originally I was just bluffing her with the designed raft and the layers, hoping to let the netizens see clearly who the real plagiarist was. As a result, she couldn't hold it in and spilled out all the things about stealing my designed raft in one go. Lucas's body swayed unsteadily, trying to finish his sentence. But after seeing Mia's stupid appearance, he finally couldn't stand it anymore. He was so angry that his eyes rolled up and he fainted. As he fell to the ground, he was still cursing continuously. It's over, it's all over. How could there be someone who doesn't even know about the layers? I actually really thought she had some skills. Now it's all over. Although the staff members despised them, they still had to do their duty, brought out a stretcher, and carried Lucas away. However, although they were doing their duty, the netizens at the scene didn't buy it. After realizing that they had been fooled by Mia and Lucas and almost wrongly accused me, the colorblind painter, they were all extremely angry and passionately demanded an explanation. Before the stretcher could be carried out, it was stopped by the netizens, who punched and kicked the fainted Lucas. At the same time, after shockingly reading me explanations in the bullet comments, Mia also realized that she had been exposed. Her eyes widened in fear, and she tried to find a chance to run away. But with so many eyes on her, how could she find a chance? Soon, the stinky eggs and rotten vegetables in the netizens' hands were thrown at Mia. The stench was extremely unpleasant, and there was even chicken wrappings on her clothes. Mia shrieked and scurried around with her head in her hands, but was blocked by the netizens who were eager to take action. Some spat, some threw garbage, some cursed at her pointing their noses, and some punched her. The scene was really lively and exciting. After a round of attacks, there were 2 big, bruised and swollen pig heads lying on the ground. As for me, I was isolated under the spontaneous protection of the netizens, and wasn't affected by the dispute. After dealing with Mia and Lucas, I took out the tablet I had prepared long ago and showed the original layers of my design concept under the camera. The netizens were surprised to find that I had prepared so much for this painting. Each layer was extremely exquisite, and even when all the layers were stacked together, there was an unexpected little ingenuity. This wasn't in the designed raft. It could only be done through the operation of the tablet, and it was also what was about to be shown on my unfinished painting. 999 magnificent and beautiful peonies seemed to leap out of the paper, and each flower was blooming towards the east. When held a little further away, one could clearly see that through the design of the distant view and the shadow, they had different distances. When aimed at the sky, a line of red characters was reflected on the paper. Celebrate the birthday of our motherland. Happy National Day. Everyone's eyes widened and shot, both for my exquisitely designed painting and for my red patriotic heart. The champion of the painting competition, without any surprise, fell to me. Standing on the podium, my empty eye sockets were a little moist. In this life, I finally proved myself. When I was in my 4th month of pregnancy, I had some bleeding, but my husband, a renowned obstetrician and gynecologist, asked me to go to the hospital for a prenatal checkup alone. I didn't try to stop him. I watched calmly as he rushed out the door in a hurry to find his childhood sweetheart who was drunk and acting up. In my past life, he accompanied me to the prenatal checkup first, and saved me when I was at high risk of pregnancy complications. However, because his childhood sweetheart didn't see him, she went crazy after drinking and fell off the rooftop, her body covered in blood and flesh. After that incident, my husband disappeared for 3 days. When he came back, he was very calm, and then we looked forward to the birth of our child together. But when I encountered a difficult labor during childbirth, my husband, who insisted on delivering the baby himself, looked at me coldly as I was in extreme pain and bleeding profusely. He was reluctant to perform the surgery for a long time. I begged him to save our child quickly, but he coldly brought up the past. There was actually nothing seriously wrong with you during that prenatal checkup. You were just lying and using the baby in your belly to coerce me and hold me back, which is why I couldn't save her. Luna was so young and kind. She wouldn't have died so tragically if it weren't for you. I truly wish it was you and the baby who died instead. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when I had bleeding and was going for a prenatal checkup. Looking at him as he casually passed by me and rushed out the door, I knew he had also been reborn. On the day I gave birth in my past life, James had that exact same look in his eyes. At that time, he stood by the delivery bed and looked at me coldly, showing no expression throughout the whole process. The scalpel was in his hand, but he deliberately delayed until I had a difficult labor and massive bleeding. My uterus was eventually removed, and the baby, due to being squeezed for too long, had poor intracranial development and became a cerebral palsy patient. I don't blame the child, he is innocent. But I can't forgive myself for being such an irresponsible mother, nor can I bear the heavy life wrapped in cold violence any longer. Depression devoured every waking moment of mine like a malignant tumor. In the end, I jumped off a building with my child, hoping to end everything. And before I jumped, James didn't say a single word to stop me. He just stood beside me and coldly uttered a sentence that destroyed my last bit of will to live. Sophia, stop acting and pretending to be pitiful here. How could a woman as hypocritical as you be willing to commit suicide? Even if you really jump, you'll only be suffering the consequences of your own actions. You owe this to Luna, and I won't feel the slightest bit of sadness for you. The pain of broken bones still seems to be in my memory, and now the discomfort in my body and the ringing of the phone together remind me that I'm back on the day of the prenatal checkup. At this moment, the voice of James' childhood sweetheart Luna is coming from his phone. James, hiccup. I'm okay. I'm just so lonely all by myself. I miss you so much. Can you come and accompany me? The wind upstairs is so strong and cold. Hiccup. James. Luna, be good. Have you been drinking? Listen to me. Leave there right away and don't wander around. I'll be there soon. James's voice was so nervous that it was trembling. If you have something to attend to, just go ahead. I'll go for the prenatal checkup by myself. The pain and hatred in my heart seem to be overflowing, but now I want to let go. Since he's so eager to save his childhood sweetheart, let him go. I could only pretend that I didn't hear their conversation and said coldly. And he didn't say a word. He turned around and left, his back cold and resolute. Looking at him as he didn't even look back, I couldn't help but think of the old days we once had. At that time, James always held my hand and walked in front, while I always liked to fall half a step behind him and admire his tall and straight figure. He liked to gently squeeze the palm of my hand with his fingers and ask me with a smile, "Are you cold?" And every time I would pretend to be disgusted and push him away, but I would secretly smile happily from an angle he couldn't see. But now the man who once carefully protected me has turned away when I needed him the most, without even a single extra explanation. Those details that once made my heart flutter, now all hurt unbearably. I touched my belly and comforted myself. It's okay. Don't cry. It's not good for the baby. At least I had the baby with me now. I went out by myself and stood by the roadside, waiting to hail a taxi. The driver was a friendly uncle. As soon as I got in the car, he started chatting casually as if we were old acquaintances. How many months along are you? You're probably due soon, right? Why isn't your husband accompanying you? But I had a pale face and my body was slightly trembling. The suppressed emotions were churning in my chest, like a fire that could burst out at any moment. Closing my eyes and pretending to be asleep, I needed some peace. The driver noticed my silence. He glanced at my face in the rearview mirror, realized something was wrong, stepped on the gas pedal in silence, and didn't ask any more questions. Suddenly, there came a harsh screech of brakes from ahead, accompanied by a huge impact. Before I could react, the car was violently hit out of the traffic lane and crashed into a big tree by the roadside, and I wasn't wearing a seatbelt in the back seat. In an instant during the car accident, everything seemed to slow down and become blurry. Intense pain spread from my abdomen. I pressed my hand firmly against my belly, and the only thought in my mind was, "Man, a baby can't have anything wrong with it again." The passers-by around quickly gathered around. Some took out their phones to call the emergency number 120, and some gently patted my shoulder to comfort me. "Don't be afraid. The ambulance will be here soon. The baby will be fine." The driver was also injured, but not as seriously as me. After getting out of the driver's seat, He frantically searched for my phone and dialed the number labeled husband with trembling hands. The phone rang a few times, and he answered it. The driver said urgently, "Hurry up and come, dear wife." Before the driver could finish, his cold voice came from the phone, "Sophia, stop acting. Why are you so dramatic?" His voice was bone-chillingly cold, like a bucket of cold water poured over my head. My body trembled violently, and the pain seemed to intensify. Before I could say anything, Luna's voice came from the other end of the phone again. She laughed softly, and her tone was full of pride and mockery. "Oh, James, don't say that. It's all my fault. You should be with Sophia." I bit my lips tightly, and the smell of blood spread between my lips and teeth. My heart felt as if it was being torn apart inch by inch. The people around were still attentively helping me, and the driver was also anxiously pacing beside the car. That he on the other end of the phone was like a cold wall, blocking off all the warmth. "I knew you were up to something when I saw you pretending to be magnanimous this morning," he said without hiding the impatience in his tone, his voice full of contempt. "I just arrived at Luna's place, and you pulled this stunt. You're really quite punctual." Tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably. I clutched the corner of my clothes tightly, my fingers turning white. The warm hand of the person beside me gently rested on my shoulder and said softly, "Young lady, don't get too excited. Stay calm. The ambulance will be here soon." He didn't wait for my response. His tone changed, becoming gentle and full of tenderness. "Luna, ignore her. Let's go for a meal later. Don't let these things ruin our mood." Since James and I started dating, Luna has always been like a clingy cat, constantly hovering around him. Whether it was the lunch break on a working day or the leisure time on a weekend, she would always find him with various excuses. "Let's go to the movies together tonight. I bought the tickets specially." Or, "James, I'm just nearby. I miss you and want to see you." At first, I would always remind him it's really inappropriate for Luna to pester you like this. She has no sense of boundaries. I wanted to person space without anyone's interference. He would always argue, "Luna is just a little sister. Sophia is my one and only love. She's just throwing a tantrum like a little girl. It's no big deal. I can handle all of this. Don't worry too much." The tenderness he once showed was once my exclusive. But now, it has been given without reservation to someone else. I know I shouldn't have expected anything from him anymore, but his coldness at this moment still made me feel a chill. The world in front of me began to blur. I desperately suppressed the panic in my heart, but that heart-connecting pain had already swept through my whole body. The people around were still helping, but I felt as if I had fallen into an endless darkness, all alone. The ambulance sped all the way, and the shrill sound of the siren seemed to blend with my heartbeat. I was quickly taken to the hospital. The familiar ceiling, the familiar corridor, and the smell of disinfectant filled the air. Pushing open the door of the emergency room, the nurse Henry, who knew me, was right in front of me. When she saw my pale face and weak body, she became extremely anxious at once. She quickly walked to the side and dialed his phone number. "James, something has happened to your wife. The baby may not be saved. Please come quickly." Her voice was full of anxiety and worry, and her eyes were slightly red. She found it a bit hard to accept this sudden situation. But his cold voice came from the other end of the phone. "Henry, I know you have a good relationship with Sophia usually, but don't waste public resources by accompanying her to lie. She was perfectly fine when I went out this morning. I accompanied her for every prenatal checkup before, and the baby is in good condition. Don't do this, okay?" I stared blankly at Henry. Her hand holding the phone trembled slightly, and the panic and disbelief in her eyes were beyond words. On the other end of the phone, his voice was still cold. "Stop acting with her. I have something to do. I'll hang up now." Then he hung up the phone without hesitation. Henry stood there stunned. She turned to look at me, at a loss for words for a moment, her eyes full of helplessness and apology. "Sister-in-law. What should we do? Should we call him again?" I held back my tears, forced myself to calm down, took a deep breath, and my throat was as hoarse as if it had been cut by a knife. Don't call him. Call my mother-in-law instead. My mother-in-law used to be my only support in this family. She treated me very well and almost doted on me as if I were her own daughter. Every time James and I had conflicts, she would always stand by my side and comfort me softly. My mother-in-law knew how to care for others with her heart. Especially after I got pregnant, she took care of me almost meticulously, making soup, cooking meals, and reminding me of all kinds of precautions. When James treated me coldly again and again, my mother-in-law was always the one who soothed the pain in my heart with her gentle words and warmth. She would whisper to me, "It's okay, Sophia. Everything will be all right." Those cares made me feel a little warmth in this cold home. At this moment, she was the only one I could rely on. I was wheeled into the operating room. My mother-in-law paced anxiously outside the door, constantly dialing the phone in her hand, but she still couldn't get through to James. She paced back and forth, looking up at the door of the emergency room from time to time, her brows furrowed, and her face full of worry and exhaustion. Every time a doctor came out of the emergency room, she would immediately step forward to ask about the situation inside, but the replies that she still had to wait made her feel even more heavy-hearted. Finally, the screen of the phone lit up, and James's name appeared on the caller ID. My mother-in-law quickly answered the phone and said urgently, "James, why didn't you answer the phone before? Where are you?" James's voice on the other end of the phone was still cold. "I'm watching a movie with Luna." "Your wife had a car accident, and you're still watching a movie with someone else. Why didn't you accompany her for the prenatal checkup as a husband?" There was disdain and contempt for me in James's voice. "Mom, did Sophia say something to you again? You've spoiled her so much that she's always acting like this. What's the big deal about a pregnant woman going for a prenatal checkup alone? You spoil her too much. Luna is in a bad mood and drunk. What's wrong with me coming to accompany her? She's wandering around outside alone, and I'm worried about her. She needs me more." Hearing this, my mother-in-law was so angry that her whole body trembled. She almost threw the phone away and shouted into the phone, "Your wife is almost dying to give birth to your child, and you're still accompanying another woman. You come back here right now, come right away. If you don't come, we'll cut off the mother-son relationship." When I woke up, everything in front of me was blurred, and the feeling of weakness all over my body trapped me in the hospital bed. I instinctively reached out to touch my belly. My mother-in-law was sitting by the bedside, her eyes red and swollen. She held my hand tightly with both hands, and there was suppressed pain in her voice. "Sophia, listen to me. Don't worry, don't get excited. The baby didn't make it." These words were like a sharp sword that instantly pierced my heart. My mind went blank, and the reality of losing the child weighed on me so much that I could hardly breathe. "Don't be too sad. The doctor said you're still young. After you recover, there's still hope." My mother-in-law leaned over, wiping my tears with a tissue while choking back sobs to comfort me. Tears welled up in my eyes uncontrollably, and my heart ached as if it had been torn apart. This time, I still couldn't protect my child. Bang! The door of the ward was suddenly pushed open, and I saw James rushing in with an angry expression. "Sophia, how long are you going to keep making a scene like this? You're always playing with your life like this. I've told you that there's nothing between me and Luna. You just don't believe it. Now you even staged a car accident just to act. I've really had enough. I'm telling you, I want a divorce from you." His words were like a thunderclap that made my head buzz. I stared fixedly at the ceiling. After being reborn once, I still couldn't believe that the words I had just heard came from my husband's mouth. How could he say such cruel words at this time? My mother-in-law immediately stood up and pointed at his face furiously. "Are you still human? Your wife had a car accident and lost the baby, and all you can do is scold. Do you have any conscience left?" Only then did he realize that something was wrong. When his eyes fell on my belly, he froze. It was no longer in a bulging shape. The flat abdomen was like a slap in the face, hitting him hard. James's pupils shrank slightly, and his face turned pale instantly. The previous coldness was replaced by a trace of panic. He stood there unconsciously clenching his fists, his Adam's apple rolling up and down as if suppressing something. His voice lowered, and his eyes dodged for a moment, as if he had finally realized what had happened. However, he was still stubborn. You seemed fine when I saw you this morning. I thought you were just throwing a tantrum at me." There was a faint trace of guilt in his expression, but more of it was helplessness and bewilderment, as if in the face of the impact of reality, a corner of his reason had collapsed. However, he was still stubborn and trying to maintain his arrogance. My mother-in-law walked to the bedside and said softly to me, "Ignore him. He just can't control his mouth. He's not that bad at heart." I looked at his complicated face with an expression mixed with anxiety and chagrin, but he still couldn't say a word of sincere concern. Suddenly, I felt extremely tired, as if this marriage had completely drained my last bit of strength. I took a breath, my voice hoarse but firm. "Okay, I agree to the divorce." As soon as the words left my mouth, his face immediately became stiff, as if he was shocked by my determination. The panic in his eyes instantly intensified, his brows furrowed tightly, his lips parted slightly as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything. And I, looking at his panic, felt extremely calm inside. The hope that had remained after countless arguments in the past had now completely vanished. My mother-in-law gently held my hand, with a hint of pleading in her gesture, and looked at me with a complicated expression, as if she hoped I would think about it again. But I had made my decision. At this moment, all that was left in my heart was calmness. Life after the divorce seemed to give me back the freedom to breathe. I returned to my familiar working environment, recuperating my body while immersing myself in work. To be honest, I was just running away, escaping from that suffocating emotional whirlpool. The first few days were really tough. Sitting at my desk, I stared at the mountain of documents, but I couldn't help but think of his back as he turned away and the child I had lost again. That pain was like someone had stomped hard on my heart, making it hard for me to breathe. But I gritted my teeth and told myself over and over again, "Stop thinking about it, stop thinking about it. Life has to go on and work is my only lifeline." Gradually, I got back into the rhythm of work. I was so busy every day that I didn't have time to think about those sad things. Strangely enough, my efforts actually paid off. After completing an important project, not only did the team give me a high evaluation, but even my usually serious boss began to notice me. After several meetings, he actually entrusted me with a new project. My career started to pick up, and I became more confident. My friends said I had changed and become more charming. I began to go out for meals and travel with them, enjoying the pleasures of an independent life. Once, after a gathering, my friends posted a group photo of us on their social media feeds. Looking at myself in the photo, with delicate makeup and a bright smile, I was in a trance for a moment. Is this really me? The woman who was once tortured to death by love could actually be smiling so happily now. James opened the social media feed and saw me standing with my friends, smiling so relaxed and carefree. His fingers lingered on the screen for a long time, and it was hard to tell what was going on in his mind. He had been living in a daze these past few days, and the house was already in a complete mess. There were takeout boxes on the dining table that hadn't been cleaned up for several days. The sofa was piled high with scattered clothes, and there were even bits of garbage on the floor. He sat wearily on the sofa, covering his face with both hands, his head throbbing with pain. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was his mother. As soon as his mother entered the door, she was shocked by the scene in front of her. She frowned and looked around, then sighed, "What kind of a mess have you made of this house? When Sophia was here, the house was never this untidy." She patted James on the shoulder, her tone full of worry. "You really should think it over. What kind of spell did that little girl cast on you? Why are you so devoted to her?" James lowered his head and remained silent, seemingly unwilling to respond. His mother continued, "Do you really think that little girl loves you? Besides having you accompany her to eat, drink, and have fun, what else has she ever done for you?" James opened his mouth to retort, but his voice was a bit feeble. "She's still young, just a bit naive. His mother snorted coldly, she's not young anymore, she's in her 20s. Sophia was even younger than her when she married you. Think about it, how did Sophia take care of you back then? She worried about you and supported your career. When did she ever make you worry about her? And what about this little girl? Besides throwing tantrums, has she ever shown the slightest consideration for you? In a relationship between two people, it's not just about age, but about whether there's true affection in one's heart. James was at a loss for words for a moment, and his mother's words stung him. He recalled recent events. Luna clung to him like a piece of chewing gum and couldn't bear to be apart from him for a single moment. Every day, she would find excuses to have him accompany her, as if she couldn't live without him. And he, no matter how tired he was, couldn't refuse. Every time, he had to put aside what he was doing to cater to her needs. At first, James quite enjoyed it and thought it was a wonderful thing to be needed. But as time went by, he felt more and more exhausted. Yet when he thought of the scene of Luna committing suicide for him in his past life, he made excuses for her, at least she's sincere. Seeing that James was still being stubborn, his mother shook her head and sighed, sincere? If she were sincere, how could she only think of herself? You're so tired, but has she ever felt sorry for you? A few days later, James had just come out of the hospital. After performing several surgeries in a row, he was extremely tired. He had planned to go home and have a good sleep, but then he received a call from Luna. James, come quickly, my friends and I are at the bar, and everyone is waiting for you. The innocent look on Luna used to make him think she was cute, but now it had turned into endless demands and dependence. James wearily rubbed his temples and tried his best to refuse. Luna, I'd just finished a surgery. I'm really too tired. Can we do it another day? Just come for a little while, my friends are all here. I can't lose face. Luna's coquettish voice made it impossible for him to refuse. He sighed and finally went. The lights in the bar were flashing, and the music was deafening. As soon as James went in, he felt dizzy. He greeted Luna's friends, sat down in a hurry, and couldn't hold on any longer. He leaned against the sofa and closed his eyes. In a daze, he heard the conversation between Luna and her friend. You're amazing, you even managed to get a doctor. Her friend's voice was full of teasing. Of course. Luna replied proudly, you have to learn to play the weakling, you know? Then make demands actively. For example, pretend you can't drink, throw a fit, and insist that he accompany you. After doing it a few times, he'll get used to it and fall right into your trap. Wow, you're so great, her friend laughed, but men are all like that. If you're too nice to them, they won't cherish you. You're so smart. Just then, her friend suddenly lowered her voice, he seems to be awake. Luna's heart sank suddenly, her eyelids fluttered, and she slowly turned her head. She saw James staring at her coldly, and there was no telling what he was feeling from his dark eyes. Luna froze instantly, and the smile on her face disappeared without a trace. James. Her voice was filled with panic as she tried to salvage the situation. Listen to my explanation. It's not what you think. James stood up, coldly shaking off her hand that was trying to hold him back, his voice stinged with suppressed anger. That's enough, Luna. How long are you going to keep lying to me? He walked out of the bar without looking back, leaving Luna there in a panic. Her words caught in her throat, and she couldn't say anything more. James was in an extremely heavy mood, and the scene of Luna's pride kept replaying in his mind. He had once been moved by her so-called sincerity, but now he realized that he had been living in a lie all along. The moment James walked out of the bar, the anger in his heart was like surging waves, completely engulfing him. He stood on the street corner, and the night wind blew on his face, cold enough to make him sober up. He had never felt the taste of betrayal so vividly before. Those dependencies that he had once thought were sincere were now nothing but clumsy tricks, the same tricks as in his past life. He walked on the dimly lit street, and Luna's words in the bar echoed in his mind. Into lifetimes, he had actually been fooled by the same method. In his past life, he had felt infinite guilt towards Luna. He always thought that she had fallen off the building because he hadn't treated her well, so he desperately tried to make up for her sincerity. And in this lifetime, he had still fallen into the same trap and given up the person who truly loved him. Thinking of this, his heart seemed to be tightly gripped by an invisible hand. Those details that he had once overlooked now emerged clearly in his mind. Was every one of Luna's cries and Kokatha's acts just an act? And in his past life, what had she really experienced before she fell off the building? Would a woman who regarded feelings as playthings really commit suicide for a relationship? James felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet, and he became even more afraid to think deeply about it. He had always thought that he was the one who had let her down, but now he realized that she might have never truly cared about him. And what about his treatment of Sophia? When he thought of Sophia, his heart ached as if cut by a knife. The woman who had once devoted herself to him wholeheartedly, who had endured his indifference and hurt time and time again. She had even been pregnant with his child, but she had lost the baby due to his repeated neglect. James's vision blurred. He recalled the image of Sophia lying on the hospital bed, her eyes filled with despair and coldness. He had never seen her so vulnerable before. At that moment, she seemed to have been abandoned by everyone, and he was the one who had pushed her into the abyss. He suddenly realized that he had lost not just a woman, but also their shared future. In each lifetime they had a child, but because of his selfishness and indifference, that life had vanished before it could even arrive. Twice, it was all because of him. Thinking of this, James's chest was filled with pain and hatred. He hated himself, he hated Luna, and he hated himself for stupidly believing her lies once again. However, Sophia was still there. This thought was like a ray of light, illuminating his dark heart. She was still there, and perhaps their future could still be salvaged. He finally realized that he couldn't afford to lose her anymore. He had to do something, had to win back her heart, no matter what the cost. From that day on, James began a long journey of pursuit. At first he tried to get close to her again in the simplest and most direct way. One day he happened to meet me outside my company. Pretending it was an accidental encounter, he took the initiative to come up and greet me. "Sophia, long time no see." His voice carried a hint of tentativeness and caution. I looked up at him and my expression was cold. "Dr. James, we have nothing more to talk about." After saying that I turned around and left, leaving him alone there without mercy. James's heart ached, but he wasn't willing to give up. I often received bouquets of flowers secretly sent by him at my workplace, along with cards expressing his apologies and remorse. However, I returned these bouquets and cards untouched. He tried to ask me out for dinner, but every time I coldly refused. He began to change his strategy and decided to prove his determination with practical actions. James took the initiative to pick me up and drop me off at work. Even though I treated him with a cold shoulder, he never backed down. My mother-in-law also called me and tried to persuade me, "Sophia, James really knows he's wrong. He's been trying hard to win you back during this time." Holding the phone, I said calmly, "Mom, it's not that I don't want to forgive him. He just disappointed me too thoroughly." Thinking of that painful time and the lost child, my heart still ached. "Sophia, he's already regretted it, and I can see that he's truly repentant. You've come this far with great difficulty. Do you really want to break up completely?" I smiled bitterly. "Mom, some things really can't go back. Those wounds can't be mended." Closing my eyes, I made up my mind. Even though James was trying to win me back, I wouldn't easily believe his sweet words again. After the last quarrel with James, Luna found that she had been blocked from all forms of contact with him. However, her harassment didn't stop. Instead, it became even worse. She called his hospital again and again, sent messages to other people who knew him, and even went to the hospital in person to find James. Every time, she would cry pitifully and threaten him, saying, "If you don't forgive me, I'll kill myself. You're my only hope. Do you really have the heart to watch me die?" At first, James would frown and respond impatiently a few words, but soon, he found that he had no patience left to deal with her emotional blackmail. Every word and every action of hers was like a thorn, making him restless. The guilt from his past life had long been worn away by the absurdity of this life. After learning that James had started to pursue me again, she went completely crazy and reached the extreme. On this day, Luna called James's office. She cried hysterically on the phone, "If you don't come to see me, I'll jump off the top floor of the hospital right now. If you really don't come, I'll really jump." James's mind was filled with a buzzing sound, and a trace of indifference and weariness appeared in his eyes. He knew that every threat from Luna followed the same pattern, and he was already tired of these tricks. But as a doctor, in the face of such a situation, he couldn't completely ignore it. After all, as the person who used to be closest to her, he couldn't let anything really happen to her. So he rushed to the top floor of the hospital. Standing on the rooftop, Luna was standing at the edge, pretending to jump. When she saw James appear, her face was filled with pain. "You finally came. I know you still care about me, right? As long as you're willing to forgive me, we can start over." Her voice was shrill and harsh, echoing on the rooftop along with the wind, but James just looked at her coldly, without any pity in his eyes. He took a few steps closer, his hands in his pockets, and his tone full of mockery. "Is this all you've got? It's really ridiculous. Suicide threats, crying and making a scene. You've repeated these for 2 lifetimes. Aren't you tired? If you really have the guts, then jump." Luna was stunned and looked at him in shock, as if she didn't recognize the James in front of her. She couldn't understand at all why her previous tricks didn't work at all now. James's attitude was cold and decisive, completely different from the man in her memory, who used to feel guilty and pity for her. How can you be like this?" she stammered, and the tears in her eyes froze instantly. She no longer dared to act trashly and instead subconsciously moved away from the edge of the rooftop. Obviously, she didn't really want to jump. Looking at her subconscious action, James sneered, "You see, even you don't dare to jump. You've never been willing to sacrifice for others. You just use these means to manipulate people and get what you want. Unfortunately, this doesn't work on me anymore." Luna was completely stunned. She stood there as if she couldn't accept the reality in front of her. The James who used to obey her every word, the man she thought would always feel guilty and be soft-hearted towards her, was now so cold and heartless. Her heart was in a mess, and she tried to win him back with tears again, but James didn't even look at her. "Think it over for yourself. I've had enough of your tricks. Goodbye, Luna. Don't come to me again in the future." After saying this, he turned around and prepared to leave the rooftop. Just then, the police arrived. They had already received the hospital's alarm, quickly stepped forward to persuade Luna to stay away from the danger, and took her away from the rooftop. Looking at James's back, Luna was filled with despair and unwillingness, but she was no longer able to win him back. After the incident, the hospital's leader had a talk with James. Sitting behind the desk, the leader said seriously, "Dr. James, this isn't the first time. Although we understand your personal emotional disputes, she has come to the hospital to cause trouble several times, even making a scene on the rooftop. This has a very bad impact on the hospital's reputation." James sat on the chair with a calm expression, silently accepting the leader's criticism. He knew that he should indeed take responsibility, but he also knew that this couldn't be controlled at all. He no longer wanted to have anything to do with Luna, but her entanglement was like an endless nightmare. The leader sighed, "Considering your mental state and the impact of this incident, I suggest that you take a break for a while, adjust yourself, and let the matter calm down." James nodded, feeling extremely tired inside, and said calmly, "Okay, I'll cooperate." That night, James returned to his empty home, full of exhaustion. As soon as he entered the door, he received a call from his mother. "James, I know you've been looking for Sophia recently." There was a trace of helplessness and distress in his mother's voice. "Do you really realize that you were wrong by doing this?" James was silent for a while and then said in a low voice, "Mom, I know I was wrong. I just want to win her back now. It would have been better if you had understood earlier." His mother sighed and then said earnestly, "That Luna, I've told you before that she doesn't really care about you. Look at Sophia. How much has she sacrificed for you? She is taking good care of everything at home. And what about you now? Your good job has been messed up by her. She's a disaster. James gripped the phone tightly, his throat dry. Thinking of his life in the past few months, it was indeed as his mother said. His home was in a mess, and his work was also in chaos. Mom, I understand. You're right. James's voice was a bit hoarse. James, Sophia is a good girl. You've hurt her heart deeply enough. If you still have a conscience, make up for her well and don't let her get hurt again. His mother's tone was full of advice and distress. Go and win her back. James's figure appeared downstairs of my company again. This was already the 10th day in a row that he had come to find me. Looking at his tired and haggard face, all I felt in my heart was endless annoyance and weariness. In these days, I thought that time could fade everything away, but it turned out that he would never let go easily. The entanglement was like the wound between us that could never heal. Finally, I decided to make things clear to him once and for all. We couldn't go on like this anymore. We met in a quiet CIF. After I sat down before I could speak, James couldn't wait to apologize. His eyes were filled with pain and regret. Sophia, I know I was wrong. I really regret it. I shouldn't have treated you and our child like that. Can you give me another chance? We're still young. We can have another child, and we can start over. There was despair in his voice, as if he was clutching at a straw and holding on tightly. There was pleading, regret, and the tenderness that I had once longed for in his eyes. However, all of this meant nothing to me anymore. I looked at him quietly with no ways in my heart, only a terrifying calmness. I slowly said, James, don't you understand? It's impossible between us anymore. My tone was cold, and every word cut through his last illusion. He obviously didn't want to accept this reality. He clenched his fists and continued, No, Sophia, don't say that. We can still start over. I've realized my mistake. We can have another child. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back any longer. The anger and grief that had been suppressed in my heart for a long time welled up together. I stared at him and coldly interrupted him. Have another child? James, do you think all this can be undone? Do you think that as long as we have another child, the past can be erased? I took a deep breath, my eyes filled with sorrow and hatred. Apart from the child we lost, you still owe me another child. You owe me a life. He froze, his lips trembling as if he had been suddenly awakened. He looked at me, his eyes full of shock and pain. What do you mean? You still owe me 2 lives. My voice was as cold as a frozen winter night. Have you forgotten? In the last life, it was you who caused our child to be born with cerebral palsy. He was your child. Just for a woman, you treated him like that. How could you do such a thing? He will never come back. I gritted my teeth and continued, in this life, you also made us lose our child. Do you think the gulf between us is just as simple as losing a child? No, James, there's no way we can cross that gap anymore. James's face turned pale instantly, and his body seemed to be crushed by an invisible heavy pressure. His pupils suddenly dilated, and his breathing became rapid. It seemed that in that instant, he understood something, and pain and regret welled up in his heart like a tide. He asked in a trembling voice, You were also reborn. I looked at him, sneered, and nodded. My tone was full of mockery. Yes, James. Did you think you were the only one who got a chance to start over? This time, I won't make the same mistakes again. He completely broke down. He covered his face with both hands, and his voice was full of indescribable regret. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sophia, I really didn't know. I'm sorry for you, and I'm sorry for our child. He whispered in pain, as if constantly punishing himself with an invisible force. But all of this meant nothing to me anymore. I looked at the man in front of me, the man I once loved and gave everything for. Now, he was like a broken puppet in front of me, pitifully pleading, but I felt no mercy at all. James, if you really feel sorry for me, then don't come to me again. My voice was calm and cold. Every word was like an icy blade, cutting through his last glimmer of hope. James raised his head, his eyes full of despair and pain. His lips trembled as he wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. I stood up and left the CIF without looking back, leaving him alone, sitting there icy cold, as if he had lost all the light in an instant. When I walked out of the CAF there were already some faint clouds in the sky, and the wind carried a chill. I took a deep breath, and my heart was calmer than ever before. Those past wounds, anger, and disappointments finally came to an end with this conversation. From now on, we will never have any intersection again.